Hi everyone, thanks for joining in and watching us today. I'm happy to have Carolyn England joining us. So you might remember Carolyn's been our author for the day before, and great to have you back, Carolyn. It's good to have
Hello,
so
everyone.
many authors. Yeah, it's great having so many authors supporting us and coming back again, which is really great.
Yeah, well, you're a good bunch. Lots of questions, lots of chats. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. And we love having you. Just a little bit about Carolyn. So, Carolyn's author of psychological thrillers Beneath the Skin, My Husband's Lies, Betray Her, and Truth Games is Carolyn England. And then The House of Hidden Secrets, The House on the Water's Edge is C.E. Rose. And Carolyn likes to write multi-layer, dark and edgy domestic suspense stories that delve into complicated relationships, secrets, lies, loves, and the moral grey area. Drawing on her days as a divorce and professional indemnity lawyer, she loves to create ordinary, relatable characters who get caught up in extraordinary situations, pressures, dilemmas, or crime. She admits to a slight obsession with the human psyche, what goes on beyond closed doors and beneath people's facades. She also enjoys performing a literary sleight of hand in her novels and hopefully surprising her readers. And Carolyn has also written Convictions and Confessions, a legal drama series under her pen name Caro Land. So just want to mention as well that I've recently read The House on the Water's Edge, which I really enjoyed reading. And for everyone watching, thanks to Carolyn. If you ask a question during the Facebook Live, you'll have a chance to win a copy of Truth Games. So thanks so much, Carolyn, for joining us. Just wondered if you wanted to start off by talking to us a little bit about your books.
Okay, I think you just said it all in your introduction. I suppose I do like to write stories about people. I'm really hot on characterization, and I like to build up the relationships in the people. And I suppose a lot of people say I'm a slow burn. I hope that's not a bad thing, because some people like sort of a quick get in there, wham bam sort of story, whereas mine, it's all there on the page. The secrets are all burning slowly on the page as you go along. But I like to build up the characterization, and then I like to thwack you with a few shocking twists and turns as you go along. So they're my sort of books. But what I'll do is, the latest, you've read The House on the Water's Edge, and that's slowly out in ebook, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that one is set in mainly set in Norfolk. I've gone on a little journey, but most of my books are set in the northwest of England, where I live. I live in Manchester, where it rains a lot. Although actually it's sunny today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so all my books tend to be sort of northern based, but I reckon I need to stroll over to Australia or somewhere else, maybe, but when you open up, I can come and visit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'll just show you. So this is the latest one, which is out actually in paperback, is one of my C.E. Rose books. So that's available in ebook and audio and in paperback. And again, that's set in Cheshire, so it's pretty much in the north of England again. And it's set in a sort of fairly ghostly old hall called Ramsey Hall. And it's the secrets within the hall. And then you get a housekeeper called Serena Green, who comes with her small child to the house. But of course, she's got secrets as well. So it's partly Serena discovering the Ramsey men's dark secrets, but hiding her own. So that's that one. And then the one where I'm offering a copy to send to someone who asks a super duper question. This one was out earlier in the year in paperback. It was already out in ebook. And again, this one's set quite locally to me in a place called Stockport, which is just sort of down the road. I didn't go far this time. And this one is about... it's from the point of view of someone called Ellie Wilson, who's a mum to 3 boys. And firstly, it starts off with a truth game. So it's what it says on the tin,
Yeah.
truth games. It starts at a truth game at university, at Leeds University, 18 years ago, where there's a truth game. And as you know, in truth games, everyone drinks too much alcohol and smokes all sorts of naughty things, and they reveal truth games. And then the rest of the story is sort of raveling out what those truths were, as well as loads of other truths as well, lots of twists and turns.
Yeah.
So that's just my latest sort of 3, if you like.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. And I'm interested to know, like, you've written under 3 names. How, like, why did you choose to do that? And how do you organize your writing? Do you just write one and then finish that, or are you writing more than one at a time?
Yeah, so it's basically because I was published in 1997 even, was my first book. So I've only been published for a few years, and I had a backlog of books. So even though I was a solicitor and working in the law, I was behind the scenes in the novel closet writing novels. So I had a backlog of books, and when I'm sort of on one, so to speak, I write quite quickly. So basically, my Caroline England publishers would do one a year. That's the traditional thing for a traditional publisher. So I needed to squeeze, otherwise I'd go mad and pull my hair out if I didn't have more to do.
Yeah.
So it was really to get more books out there. So I had 2 Caroline England books out, I think, and then I went off and did my legal series. That's my protagonist. It's a feisty lawyer set in Manchester again, called Natalie Batch, and so they were my 2 Caro Land books. And you can see what I did with the name, Caroline England. I know a lot of people go, "Oh, that's a horrible name," but it's really tricky. It's really tricky because you want it sort of to be linked with. You want people to know it's you. So that's why I did those 2 books, and that was basically during lockdown last year. And then again, I've got more books in, the pipeline. So I went to another publisher called Hero Books, who are brilliant. And this time it's CE Rose. So we've got the CE sort of, so it's me, and the Rose, that sort of got links as well. So yeah, it's pretty much that. It's pretty much me wanting to get my books out there, and they are different publishers. So my main publisher, Caroline England, is a more traditional, bigger publisher, and the other 2 are smaller imprints.
Okay, so three different publishers.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So maybe people could get, if ever I get another pen name, people could give me some ideas of another name, which is a bit linked to my name, so people know it's me.
Yeah, that's a good idea. If people want to type any ideas, that would be great. We've got lots of people watching, which is really great. So, and I've got some questions coming through. So I'll start off by asking you some of the questions we have here. Wendy says, has there been particular experiences that have led to each of your books?
Well, yes, I think all my books, I'm, they say that, are you a plotter or a pantser? Well, I'm a pantser, so that means I fly by the seat of my pants. I don't sort of plot it all out, but I do have a nugget of an idea. And of course, personal experience always ends up coming in. Because it just does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Betray Her was last year's Caroline England book, and that's about a friendship which between 2 women, Jo and Kate, which starts when they're sent to boarding school, the UK boarding school in Derbyshire, aged 8, and that happened to me. I went to a boarding school age 8, and all the horrible boarding school experiences, some of them that they suffer, it came from the heart. Obviously it's fictionalized, everything's fictionalized, but so for example that one is, and I think they all do definitely have nuggets of my own experience in, and obviously people you meet along the way, but you have to be careful. You don't want them to know that
you're writing.
Yeah.
And Belinda wonders what you're working on at the moment, if you've got something new coming.
Yeah, so I've got next year, next June, I've got my next Caroline England book out called Original Sins at the moment. Whether they keep that title, I don't know. But that's sort of in the pipeline. It's with the editor at Little Brown, and she's due to come back to me with, you know, the scary bit where they go, we want you to take that character out. And you go,
Yeah.
no, don't do that to me. So that's next year. And because I'm waiting for that, in fact, this week, on Wednesday, I came back from holiday and I've started something new. And it's quite nice when you're beginning, because you just don't know where you're going, or you've got, again, as I said before, rough ideas.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing to keep myself out of mischief at the moment.
So are you writing C.E. Rose then at the moment?
Well, yeah, this one I'm writing at the moment, I don't know what will be. It's just to add to the backlog. I don't know whether I think the trouble with my Caroline Englands is I'd like to, because that's me, and it's my maiden name, it's who I've always been. I'd like those, but with one a year, it's a slow thing. And I'm sort of, I like a bit of excitement and buzz, and you know.
Yeah. And Jill wonders if you have a favourite genre to read, and if you've got a favourite author. And I'm also wondering if maybe there's anything you've read lately you want to recommend to us.
Right. Well, obviously I write crime. I didn't know I was writing crime, but my books are crime fiction. But they have, I think, a lot of contemporary aspects, or women's fiction, if you like. I don't like that name really, because it's sort of, in a way, I think that genre, it belittles it somehow but anyway. So, and I think that's what I've always liked to read. So I'll read contemporary fiction such as Maggie O'Farrell or Kate Atkinson, but I've always loved crime as well. So, and I suppose because I've just been, I don't read as much now as I used to, because I'm so busy writing, and I get a lot of proofs from other authors, you know, from other publishers to quote. But I've just been on holiday, so I read. I'm late to the party, but I read, which is why I asked you earlier, Lisa Jewell's The Family Upstairs.
Oh yes, yeah.
Really enjoyed that. I thought that was a good.
You'll have to read her new. I just finished her new one this morning and absolutely loved it.
Right, that's good to know. And of course, I'm so late to the party because she's written about 18 or something, hasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Ridiculous number. So I really enjoyed that. And my eldest daughter and I, and now my youngest daughter have joined in, we all swap books. So I passed on to my youngest daughter Where the Cow Dads Sing. But having said that, everybody has loved it. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. So it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then... I do love Jane Harper. So obviously she's Australia's own. And I was very honoured to actually in a bookstall in a bookshop in the UK, in Liverpool actually. I interviewed her about The Lost Man, and I really enjoyed that. Because obviously she has a series, doesn't she? But that was a standalone psychological thriller, and I thought it was really good as well. So I'm sure you all love her anyway.
Yeah, she's got some great books. Yeah. Well, thanks for those recommendations. Some good ones there. Belinda wonders, when you begin writing, do you know how each story will end?
Yeah, that's probably the one thing I do know. I have a rough idea of I'm going to have, I have all my books have a series of reveals. So not everyone, but the characters are going to have a secret, and it's going to be revealed as you go along. And I think, generally speaking, I do have a very vague idea of the big reveal before I start. And of course, for example, this one I'm writing now, I know what the sort of shocker is going to be at the end, or what I'm planning it to be now. Sometimes it changes, but it's how to get there. You know, you think, oh, that's all very well, but how do I get 100,000 words before I get there?
Yeah. And you mentioned before, like, it sounds like you write a lot. Jill's wondering if you have a regular writing routine.
Not something that I sort of force on myself. It just happens because I'm here. This is my study at home, and these days, because of lockdown, my husband's just through there, and he's and then our girls now. My youngest is at university, and my eldest girl's in London, and my other girl comes home here as her office and works here as her office, but she lives just sort of down the road.
Oh, okay.
So these days. Well, as any of you who have grown-up children, they actually need you just as much as ever. But it's not as much as it is when they're little, where you have to be more hands-on helping. So my days are sort of mainly free to, so I just think, well, what else will I do other than sit here and write? So that's what I do. So, but it's not sort of like, if I've got something better to do, if someone says, oh, let's go walk my dog or whatever, I'll go off and walk the dog.
Yeah. And TJ says, truth is subjective. Each person sees something in a different way. Did that make it interesting when writing truth games?
Well, I think I've had a sneak preview of that question, which I thought was a great question, or a similar one, because it's interesting. I am fascinated, as you said in your introduction, about the human psyche and what goes on in your head. And I was a lawyer in the UK I started off doing divorce. I don't know why, I must have been crazy. And then I did professional indemnity work. But when I gave up the law because I became a stay-at-home mum for a while, I have a bit of the work ethic going on. So I had to do something else. So I became a volunteer mediator. And that was really eye-opening, because basically in the whole of the Northwest area, you go around in pairs as mediators and try and help resolve conflict and disputes. And sometimes it'd be 2 parties, sometimes it'd be 3, 10, whatever parties to a dispute. And you'd listen. You'd give each party 45 minutes to tell their version of events. And you soon discovered that in life, the same fact had 10 different versions. So it's really interesting, is point of view and truth, which is what my writing's all about. That's partly what fascinates me, because one person's truth isn't necessarily another. So that was a really great question, because exactly that's it, isn't it? You don't know what the truth is. And there's no, I know we're meant to, there's meant to be a factual answer to everything, isn't there? But there isn't always.
And Jill wonders if you'd always wanted to be an author.
I think I don't really know the answer to that. I was always I used to make up stories in my head from a very young age. When you're lying in bed and you can't get to sleep, I used to make up stories in my head. And these stories, generally, I was a nurse in the story, and whoever was the pop star heartthrob would be the patient, and they'd be in a coma, and they'd wake up from the coma and they'd see me, and there's this grand romance. So I was always making up stories all along. And then I was blinkered to go into the law, because my whole family were in the law. And I think I always thought it would be fab to be an author, but I thought I could never do anything like that. But for any of you wannabe writers out there, you've just got to do it. You've just got to sit down and do it, and anybody can. So I thought it was something one couldn't achieve, but you can, definitely.
And Carol's got a good question. If someone hasn't read any of your books before, what one would you recommend them to read first?
Oh, it's such a tricky question, because obviously an author's books are like babies. You love them all. Some have strengths, but more than others. But I guess it depends what you're looking for, really, because I think psychological thrillers, some people think it's going to be quite a quick, instant shocker type of story. But mine are, as we've discussed, more of a slow burn characterization, hybrid story. And so I think I'm just thinking if any, but they all do have shocks in them, and they do have a lot of darkness in them. But if you want something, for example, My Husband's Lies, this has been my most successful book. So maybe that's the one I'd recommend, because it became a Kindle. It got to number 4 in the overall UK Kindle chart, which was very exciting when it happened.
Yeah, that's great.
But it's there are a lot of dark secrets and shocks and everything, but this is it's also, I think, in my view, a very warm book about friendship, the importance of friends and love. And in fact, my title before it became My Husband's Lies, that was the publisher's title, was The Other Sides of Love. And I can understand why they didn't go for that, because it's not very, but I just think so much is rooted in love, horrible things, darkness, and all sorts, is, so it's very much, that's the core of, I reckon, most of my stories. But yeah, so in terms of success, I suppose that's the most successful.
Yeah. And Sharon asks about your locations. I know you mentioned before they're mostly set in places like close to where you live. Is that true for all of your books, or have you visited other places and chosen them as your location or setting?
Yeah, I mean, mainly it's, I think the first two were very much set around here in local. I mean, I go out a little bit.
Yeah.
But for example, in Betray Her, at one stage, one of the characters goes to Corfu. So that's a bit different, isn't it? And she goes and lives, a few months in the lovely Greek sunshine, and all that sort of thing. So that was because I've been to Corfu, so that was good. I was able to describe it, the smells and the taste and what you see and how the heat. But I'm a great one for, and it's you've read The House on the Water's Edge. I went off to Norfolk for that, but again, it's because the house that you'll know about, called the Lodge, and your side as well, both houses there, they were houses from my childhood, because I used to go on childhood holidays there. So again, I knew them. So I think the thing for me is I need to have experienced it, I think. Whereas some authors are great, they can set it somewhere without really, knowing it that well, or doing the research online. So yeah, I need to go to some nice places and then I can write more.
Yeah. Geraldine says, can you tell us about how you were first published and what name were you first published under?
Yes, well, my very first publication was, in fact, this one. Oh, I can reach it, sorry. Just a short story collection. Okay. But this is what we yeah, and this is good advice to anybody who wants to get in to the writing game, so to speak. I just wrote lots of short stories and I just sent them all off, and my rule was basically I wanted a paper copy of each story. But I did, in fact, submit a story to an online magazine, and I was a bit like, oh, what am I doing? Because I've got them all up there in the box, all the print copies. But as it happened, a guy got in touch with me and said, I think you've got a really good way with short stories. I'd like to do a collection. So that was like the first, it made me really, it made me feel confident that I could actually write a decent story. So after that, I took it more seriously, and my first book was Beneath the Skin, and submitted it everywhere to try and get a literary agent, as you do, as everyone has done. You send off your 3 chapters and the synopsis, rejection. Then I think in life this happens all the time. Nice things and probably horrible things as well just happen when you least expect it. But I managed to get an agent called Kate, and Kate submitted, and quite quickly I got an offer from HarperCollins, and that was for basically Beneath the Skin and My Husband's Lies, and it was just amazing and just suddenly happened. So it's wonderful. Yeah,
no, that's great. Kelly's got a good question. She says, how do you work out the right time for each reveal?
Oh, that is a really difficult one, actually. And I think often mine do come quite late in the book, and I try and bring them forwards, but it's really difficult because you've got it all in your mind and the way it goes. So yeah, I'm very, like I said before, I'm not a plotter, because a lot of crime writers are plotters, so they've got the whole plot planned out, haven't they? And I think it must make it a lot easier. But because I don't really know where I'm going with the story or what will happen or what my characters will make me do, it's difficult to do that. So it's more a generic thing that just happens. And I am all the time trying to bring some of the reveals earlier, but it's hard because you want to just wham your reader at the end, sort of as it goes along. And but yeah, I wish I could. So if you've got any tips for me, guys, let me know.
And MJ says, does anyone read your work as you're writing, or do you just present the editor with your finished first draft?
Yeah, well, I have, before lockdown here, which now I've not been probably for well over 18 months. I attended a writing group, which was literally just round the corner, amazingly. And they were good in terms of giving feedback and whatnot. But they, again, were already written novels. But they were good on if you'd repeated words or something didn't really make sense, or, but they were very, very good at that sort of thing. But in the main, I just write the whole book. I have had friends who've been beta readers, it to a friend, and that really helps. But I suppose the trouble with friends is they're often too kind, whereas they need to be brutal. That isn't working. And then, of course, once you get an agent, the agent's good for that, because you can send the agent the book, and they will go, well, I think this, that, and the other. But in the main, I like to. I'm a bit of a control freak. I don't really like interference. I think if I sent, some writers will send 3 chapters to their publisher or agent, and before they write more, they'll go, what do you think? But I think it'd freak me out if they were going, no, do this or don't do that. I'd be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Stop it. So no.
Yeah. And Joy wonders, once you were first published, how much pressure were you under to write your next novel?
Well, the same point as I've made before, I'd already got the backlog. So when Beneath the Skin was taken on, I'd already written My Husband's Lies. There was a bit of argy-bargy when it went to the editor, though, because I think she wanted to make it a slightly different book than I wanted to write, because I'd already written it. I got my characters. I love my characters. And I think there was a bit of a set too. But ultimately, I more or less stuck to my guns, and then it ended up doing really well. So fortunate that was a good thing, really.
Yeah.
And then again, sort of Betray Her and Truth Games were already written. They had completely different titles. And again, my next one, Original Sins, that's already written. So I think I would get quite anxious if I was having to write, if someone said, I want a book in 3 months, write it now.
Yeah, with the pressure.
Some of my friends do that. I don't know how they cope. I think it's real pressure.
And
not for me.
Jill's wondering how much attention you pay to your reviews.
Too much. We all do. We should just ignore it, really, because at the end of the day, we all like different things, don't we? We like different wine, we like gin, sweets, whatever. So it's only human nature to like different things. So you shouldn't, get too upset about 1-star reviews. But some reviewers can be quite brutal and can, and some are really funny as well. Sometimes you get a 1-star review, like for My Husband's Lies, I early on got a 1-star review saying it was a massive depravity. And I thought, hey, that's a good one. People will want to read it if they know it's all depraved. And then another one for Beneath the Skin, it's still on Amazon, I think, said, this book was so bad, I had to burn it after reading.
Oh, really?
And she'd actually, the lady had actually posted a picture of like a burning book. And but I don't know why she was so offended by the book, because you can look on Amazon to see what else they've reviewed, and I did look what else she'd reviewed, and all the other things she'd reviewed were candles.
Oh, really? Okay.
So she must have had a thing about burning. I wanted to burn that. But yes, but on the other hand, when I get a good review, I just love it. It gives me such a boost, and you just think, wow. And when someone's got your story exactly what you wanted them to get, and they've got it, it's like, oh, it's brilliant. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. And Sharon's wondering if you have a favourite character.
Ooh, that's another hard one again. But I think again, I'm going back to My Husband's Lies. There's a character called Dan Maloney in My Husband's Lies, and I really put him through the mill. But he's such a nice guy, and I turn his life upside down. And so yeah. So if anyone has read it, My Husband's Lies, or intends to read it, do let me know what you think, because I do like that. But obviously, I like all my characters too, because I think even my bad characters, who people go, oh, like, except perhaps you might agree, Miles in The House on the Water's Edge. A lot of people got that face. Awful Miles, and there isn't much redeeming thing about him. But I do like to give most of my characters because they've been spoiled as children, or they've had a rubbishy childhood, or so I like to at least explain why that they might not be nice people.
Yeah.
Because I think very few people are born evil, are they? Some people are, but not that many.
And Sharon says she's wondering why she's never seen your books before. She loves the titles, and she's wondering if the publishers have chosen all your titles.
Yeah, well, first of all, about not seeing my books before, I suppose. I mean, my latest two, Truth Games and Betray Her, did actually come out in Australia before they came out in the UK.
Oh, really?
And you have a bigger size book, don't you, than us?
Yeah, the first time it comes out, yes.
Yeah. So it did actually come out. You guys got those books, but they'll have only been a tiny amount in a few shops. But you guys got those books when in the UK there was only the ebook version.
Oh, okay.
And I think sometimes that model must have worked, but I don't think it particularly worked for mine, just because I'm just a nobody really. But of course, all books are available on Amazon if you order them through bookstores.
Yeah.
But
also and also Book Depository usually has a lot as well.
Yeah, you really helpfully do all the links and everything. You're brilliant. Yeah. But obviously, it'd be lovely to be more widely known. But perhaps one day, you never know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anyone's heard of the actress Katherine Hagel. She's a Hollywood actress, and with Betray Her, she was very interested in it, turning it into a mini series.
Really?
Then lockdown and COVID and everything happened. It went off the boil. But I suppose might have been a bit better known then. But anyway.
Yeah.
And as for titles, I'm just having a think. Beneath the Skin was my title, so that stayed, Beneath the Skin. And then the publishers made it complicated for people by changing the title for the ebook to The Wife's Secret.
Oh, really? Yeah. That sometimes is a bit confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, so that was that one. Then My Husband's Lies, their choice, but I think a very good choice, because I'm sure that's what drew people in. And then Truth Games, my choice, yay! And Betray Her, no, that had loads of different titles as I went on, but that was their choice. But it is a very good, if anyone's read this book, the title actually, I don't want to give any spoilers, but it is actually very to the point.
Yeah.
So it's a good title. And then my two Natalie Batch books, Convictions and Confessions, they were my titles. They were even though they were mine, they had other titles before.
Oh, okay.
But I think as an author, you do that. You have to just have a working title to just open a document to begin with. So yeah.
And have you had them published in any other languages?
Yeah, just one. It's over here. It's this one. This is My Husband's Lies, and this is the Czech Republic copy.
Oh, wow. I love the cover.
Yeah, and it's hardback.
Yeah.
So I've been publishing hardback, and I am called Caroline Englandover.
Oh, okay.
In fact, this happened about 2 years ago, but because of lockdown, I've only this week got these copies.
Oh,
so that's
you've only just got them, yeah.
So I'm very excited.
Yeah. Have you had any feedback of how those ones are going?
Well, I did only on Instagram. I got a bit of feedback way back when it happened about 2 years ago, and I did get some good feedback. But also, I wonder how life translates between Manchester,
Yeah.
UK, and the Czech Republic. You know, whether
Yeah.
I don't know. Our lifestyles the same. I mean, I'm sure the human condition and our loves and likes and frailties and all that sort of thing are the same. But I just wonder whether other aspects of life are the same. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. MJ wonders if you've always been a reader, and if you have, what was your favourite book from your childhood?
Yes, yeah, I've always loved books. I think, I mean, I used to love fairy tales from when I was little. My mum used to buy me, fairy tales from when I was very little. But they're grim. They were written by the Grimm brothers, weren't they? And they're grim. I mean, when you think back to them now, Hansel and Gretel and whatnot, awful things happened, and being left in the woods, and so I always read those, and then. And because I was the youngest of 5, so I think I probably read a lot of books that were inappropriate for my age because they'd have all more grown-up books. So I did come across Roald Dahl, not his children's books, but his adult short stories. I don't know if any of you read them, but they're one was called Switch Bitch, another one was called Kiss Kiss, and they're twist in the tail short stories. And I think that I read those when I was quite young, and some of them are a bit rude, but they're good because they have that sting in the tail, the twist in the tail, which is, I think, very much has influenced my own short stories and my writing as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Geraldine says, do you have any unpublished manuscripts?
Yes, yeah. So I've had 8 published, and I had a chick lit one. I suppose, strictly speaking, this chick lit one called A Slight Diversion was my first published book. It was only on ebook, and it was by the same publisher who did the short stories. So there's that, plus 8 I've had published, and I've just started. This one I've just started, I think, is my 16th. So what does that leave? Another few.
Yeah,
on my laptop. That I would love to get published.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there might be another pen name if I can get another publisher interested.
And MJ says, you mentioned Dan from My Husband's Lies as a favourite character. Do you find it difficult to write from a male point of view?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I suppose you just take on board what you absorb your friends and your husbands and your brothers and everything, and you hope you get it right. But I think at the end of the day, it's like we none of us must do cultural appropriation where it's inappropriate and all that sort of thing, and be cliched and everything. But at the end of the day, whether you're male, female, black, white, Russian, Japanese or whatever, I suppose inside we're all human beings, aren't we? So we all have those same worries, the same frailties, the same things that make us happy and sad. So I think I take a combination of hoping that men have some of the same emotion. I mean, I know we're on, what did they say? Women are from something and men are from Mars or something.
Yeah.
But I hope that I've got it right, and just from friendships and everything. So
do you have
many?
Please
read it and let me know whether I've got Dan right.
Yeah,
and it's not just that in that story, but it's basically 3 boys and 1 girl. Well, 3 men and 1 woman who've been friends since childhood. So I've got 3 male points of view from that. So let me know.
Do you have many male readers?
I imagine I've got predominantly female readers, but I definitely do have some male readers. And when I get a good review from a man, I'm like, yes, I've done it. Yes, I've got it. Because because a lot of it, for example, in The House of Hidden Secrets, this one that's the most recent one out in paperback. This is from 3 points of view. Serena, obviously, female point of view, but the other 2 are from the 2 brothers, Jack and Hugh Ramsay. So again, male points of view. So hopefully I've done it.
And Geraldine says, as a reader, it can be hard to say goodbye to characters at the end of a book. How attached do you get to your characters while writing your books?
I think you do. I mean, I definitely go to bed and I'm thinking about them and, getting in their headspace and thinking, well, what would they do? And, and I do very much care about them. Yeah, it's funny. And I've had quite a few readers come back about a few of my books, go, please write another one.
Yeah, do you think that's something you might do sometime, write a series?
Well, obviously my legal one is a series. There'll be two, but in terms of my actual psychological domestic suspense books, they're all standalone. And but the trouble is you have to draw the line somewhere, don't you? And those characters are still going to exist unless you kill them all off in a massacre or something. So people do go, oh, I'd love to know what happens next. But I suppose as a reader, what I do is I think in my own head what I think's going to happen next. And in a way, I quite liked it, but I don't know if I could sustain a whole novel. That's the trouble. You could do a few more chapters to wrap up each person's story. But yeah.
And I'm wondering, when you're writing an emotionally draining scene, how do you get in the mood?
I suppose I don't really know. You just sort of get on with it. I mean, I have been known, I'm pathetic, to cry at my own writing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. And also, for example, I more recently listened to the audiobook of My Husband's Lies, and I was tearing. I was going on walks during lockdown on my own listening, and I was like 1 minute smiling, the next minute going, oh, the next minute crying. I bet people thought I was a loony as I was going around, the streets on my own, but yeah, sometimes you do get a little bit sad. But on the other hand, from a writing point of view, it's normally a sad or an emotional scene or whatever. You really get into a good point, so you can't wait to get the words down. You're like typing like mad just to get them out there. Yeah.
And Geraldine wonders which of your books you think would make a really good movie.
Yeah, well, as I say, I mean, I did have the Katherine Hagel experience. I don't know if anybody's heard of her, because she was in quite a few rom-coms like Knocked Up and 27 Dress Wedding.
Probably if I saw what she looked like, I probably would know her.
Yeah, she was I mean, it was very exciting because I had a half-hour phone call with her, and she was really gushing, going, oh, I love this book, I love the characters, I don't know whether I play Jo or Kate, and the way you've written it, I would roll out the miniseries in exactly the same way. But she was going to transplant it from Northern England to America, but that was fine. I was like,
Is that option still open? Is it something that could still happen?
No, it just went off the boil. I mean, they did ask for what's called, my agents instructed a US agent, film agent. But I think this film agent, I think they're just so busy and they have top names. I think I was sort of a nobody that didn't, But anyway, they did ask for what's called a shopping list. And a shopping list is where you say, right, you can have this story for 6 months, but they don't pay you or anything. So it's less than an option. Whereas if they offer you an option, you get paid for it.
Oh, okay.
So my film agent sort of said, well, no. But in retrospect, I probably should have said yes to that. But anyway, we live and learn, don't we? You never know. Something might come up.
Hopefully something comes up later.
Yeah.
And what do you find the most difficult part of your writing process?
I think editing, as I said before, I don't know how much knowledge you've got about the writing process, but generally with a traditional publisher, you send your manuscript to your editor at the publisher, and the first thing they do is a structural edit where they basically go through the whole thing, and they might say a character doesn't work, a scene doesn't work, a secret doesn't work, and that's quite traumatic because obviously as a writer you love your story, you spend a lot of time making sure that all adds up and follows through, and if they want to take out a character or it can be like, oh my god, and like, for example, in Truth Games, she's fabulous. My editor, Anna's fabulous. She said she really loves it, but she felt I got too many secrets and reveals in. And she said, I counted them up and I think you should try and maybe just cut them down a little bit.
Oh, really?
But one of them she suggested removing was my favourite one. And it was like, oh no, I love that. That's what I really, really like. But I kept it in, but it was slightly adapted.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And then the other thing from a writing point of view is I think a lot of writers talk about a soggy middle. And I think it's when you start a new novel, you start great guns because you're building it up, and then you sort of have that vague idea of the ending. And then, as I said to you before, you've got to fill in a great big middle. And I think sometimes it's like, oh, you know, how am I going to do this? So I think that's tricky.
Yeah.
Soggy middle.
And it certainly sounds like you do write a lot. I'm wondering, do you ever have writer's block?
Do I have it?
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you were saying what is it?
No,
yeah.
Well,
I think I haven't not majorly. I think it's sort of, if I do it, it sort of doesn't last too long, because I do what I say to other people is I think just write something, because I think the more you oil the writing wheels, the more ideas will come to you and whatnot. For example, this morning I went on I do a Sunday run, which is a bit of an exaggeration run, because really it's 10 minutes of like going, I hate doing this, but it's quite a good idea, a good thing to do for ideas. And so go for a run, or a jog, or maybe walk, or maybe a very, very, crawl.
Yeah. And could you tell me what you think a successful writer is?
Well, I think the goalposts changed, because I think before I was published, for me, a successful writer was just writing a whole novel. I mean, that is an amazing thing to do, isn't it? Because you have to sustain yourself for a long time. You have to work hard. So anyone who's just written a novel, published or not, that's amazing, isn't it? And then you get really, really lucky, like I did, and you get published, and then it's like a whole new thing, and that's amazing, and you know that's, and then you get a bit greedy, and you want to be published again, and then you want to you with My Husband's Lies, it astonishingly got in did really well in ebook, and then you want to replicate that again, so it's bad, isn't it? We're all sort of greedy. You want more and more, but I think the writing for joy, if you can do the writing for joy, that's it, really. Ultimately, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for talking to me today. It's been great talking to you. Just wondering if you want to let people know how they can keep in touch with you.
Yeah, so I am bobbing in this group every now and then. The trouble is with Facebook algorithms and so on, things come up and then don't come up, don't they?
Yeah, I know.
So, but it's a great group. Then I have my Facebook, my author page, which is just Caroline England Author. So I'm always posting on there. You'll probably be bored to death with pictures of my cats or flowers or whatever, random things, as well as writing, of course. Then I have a website, which is just www.carolineenglandauthor.co.uk. I'm on Twitter, which is @CazEngland. I'm on Instagram. And if anyone ever fancies emailing me for a chat, I have an email, which is, again, carolineenglandauthor@gmail.com. So feel free to, because I do, as some of your lovely readers, members know, I'm a messenger. I'm always happy to have a chat. So, and I love to talk about my books. It's great. Yeah.
No, well, that's really great. Thanks. And thanks to everyone who joined in. We had some really great questions. And Carolyn will pop in later and check all your questions and announce who the winner was. So look out for that.
I'll mark them all out of 10.
Well, yeah, thanks so much. And bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Bye. Have a good day, evening.
Bye.